Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and for those who see this video, I would like to officially welcome you to the first official video titled Waxman Talks Aviation, or call it Waxman Aviation if you will. So, just want to give you guys tell you what this is all about. This is just simply me talking about aviation, whether it's aviation news, other stories, and whether it's commercial aviation or military aviation. I'm going to try to reach out as much as I can as possible and tell you guys all about what's going on around the aviation news. Now, how far this video series will go, we will find out. This is of course the launch video for this, and we'll see where it goes from here. So to start things off, I would say I am as passionate about aviation. You know what? No, I am definitely as passionate about aviation as I am about sports and other things. I have a lot of different interests, and aviation is one of my biggest interests without question. I love planes. So I thought, since we got a channel now called Two Guys Talk Sports and Other Things, keyword other things, I figured, you know what? I'll jump in and do something a little different. And today, this little different thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about aviation. So, I hope to do this as a continuous series every week, probably shooting for Fridays like I am tonight. Again, might not be every week too, just depends on if I got news to talk about or something that I can tell you guys about in concise detail. Because I'd rather talk to you guys about this with details, so that way you kind of have a better understanding of what I'm talking about. But the main goal of this video is we're going to focus on what's new in the aviation world to start things off in this launch title called Waxman Talks Aviation. I think going forward, it'll probably be called Waxman Aviation, but we'll just start with Waxman Talks Aviation. Okay. Now, so again, like I said, I'm a big aviation geek, and that's part of the reason why I am starting this series of videos called Waxman Talks Aviation. Alright, enough of me talking now. You guys, I'm sure you got the point. Well, let's get to the meat and potatoes. So the focus on this launch video for Waxman Aviation is none other than the stories that are hitting the aviation industry so far in the first month of 2024, or January 2024 in a nutshell, in terms of aviation, if you want to say that. So, first thing I'm going to start with, of course, it's been a chaotic start to 2024 for the aviation world. There have been two accidents, actually. I will tell you about the first one. The first one was involving a Japan Airlines Airbus A350. So on its way, while the plane was coming, so Japan Airlines flight 516 or 516, it was coming in to land at Tokyo's Haneda Airport. It was an Airbus A350-900. As it was touching down, sadly, the plane collided with a Japanese Coast Guard Bombardier Dash 8 aircraft. Sadly, 5 people on the Dash 8 were killed in the collision. And amazingly, all the passengers and crew on the Airbus A350 were able to evacuate the plane. And this is despite the fact that the Airbus A350 bursted into flames after contact with all that fuel and that stuff. Ignites a big fire. So, all the people of the Airbus A350 survived. 5 were killed, unfortunately, on the Japanese Coast Guard plane. But amazingly, the accident was not worse. And I couldn't believe it myself when I first heard about that. So that's a little bit of what we know. And from what I understand, here's what I can tell you upon the research that I've done on this accident. So far, what we know is that controllers at Haneda Airport gave the Japanese Airlines A350 or flight. Sorry about that. Make sure I know the number. 516. So the controllers at Haneda Airport gave JAL 516 permission to land on runway 34. I think was the number. But whatever runway it was, the controllers gave that plane permission to land, and then afterwards the Coast Guard plane identified itself. Like it came over on the radio. So taking transcripts from so this was around 5:43, so around 5:43 JAL the Airbus A350 had established communications, and then 2 minutes later, air traffic control tells the JAL plane it's allowed to land on runway 34 right of Haneda Airport, with the pilots repeating back, saying cleared to land. And then 10 seconds later, the Coast Guard plane that was outgoing identifies itself, telling traffic control it's on a taxiway to the runway. The traffic controller instructed this Coast Guard plane to taxi to the holding point C5 before the runway. And so they were telling him, hold short of a point, get to C5, hold short of the runway. And then the controllers told the Coast Guard, or the Dash 8 Coast Guard plane, or the Dash 8, that it has number 1 departure priority. The Bombardier repeats the instruction and adds, number 1, thank you. Then communications just stopped after that. And then afterwards, of course, that's when the accident happened. So I won't go on and speculate too much. I'll let the investigation play into it. But that's most unfortunate, having a collision like that. And it speaks volumes. Now, regardless of who's at fault, I mean, people will point fingers, but regardless of who's at fault, I'm not going to get into that, but this speaks volumes as to one of the biggest problems in the aviation world right now, and one of the biggest challenges airports are facing, and that is what we know as runway incursions, or near misses, or close calls on the runways and taxiways. This is happening a lot more than we know about, and most times it's not reported because it's usually a close call, but there are times where it ends up being a collision, and that's usually when it becomes public news. But there's a lot more of this happening than we realize, and one example was something that happened last year. I believe there was a Delta 737-900 extended range that was taking off from JFK, and they had to abort their takeoffs, and they had to really get on the brakes because an American Airlines 777 crossed the runway in front so the runway they were taking off from, an American Airlines 777-300 crossed in front of them, and they had to hit the brakes hard. Thankfully, the planes did not collide, but it was a close shit. Goes to show you how often this happens, and that's one of the big, going into 2024, the aviation industry continues to face this challenge, and figuring out how can we avoid these incursions, or at least reduce the number of incursions and close calls. So that's one story. And then, of course, alright, in terms of stories, so Boeing is in the news again. And for those of you, so now you're probably wondering, or for those who do not know, guess what? The 737 MAX has been grounded yet again. Boeing's money plane is on the ground again, or at least one version of it. The 737 MAX 9. It's on the ground again. It's grounded. There's no timetable again for when it's going to be back in service. But this grounding follows an incident in which an Alaskan Airlines 737 MAX 9 had a door blowout during about a few minutes after takeoff, and then they had to return back to Portland Airport to land. And so from what I heard upon investigation, it was a door plug that was the issue, and one that I guess they said was in good shape, but it still came out anyways, allowing the door of this 737 MAX 9 to come out. And for the record, it's one that you might not see on the inside, but it's there. Like, if you go inside the MAX 9, you won't see these doors on most of these MAX 9s, but on the outside, they're clearly visible. It was one towards the back of the plane near the tail. Just blew on out. And because of this, airlines like Alaska, United, even Aeromexico, who own the MAX 9, have had to ground their MAX 9s because of this problem, to make sure that this plane is safe. And right now, we're still kind of working on their airlines are still checking these planes to make sure it's safe to fly them again. But as a result, Alaska's had to cancel a lot of flights. United's had to cancel quite a few flights, and same with the airlines like Aeromexico. So what we do know is that it's not just, there's bigger issues than just the plane. Of course, right now the FAA is also investigating Boeing for production practices, because one of the issues for the last few years, you see, now this is different from, one could say this is probably different from the first grounding of the 737 MAX, and that was due to the MCAS system out of control. This sounds like a quality control issue, which Boeing has had Boeing's had all sorts of issues with quality control in the last few years. And a lot of that since shifting production from Washington to other parts of the country, and with the not just with the Boeing 737, but the 787. But quality control has been a big issue, and Boeing now is coming under fire again. And public trust, of course, is probably once again they're going to have to regain that. But a lot of investigations going on, and airlines are having to step on in and help Boeing with this problem, which is just blows my mind. Like planes should be when a plane maker like Boeing delivers aircraft to a certain particular airline like Alaska, they need to do a better job making sure it's in better shape. It shouldn't have to come down to Alaska having to help Boeing look into this plane again and check it and make sure it is okay to fly. Like that should be done at the plant when it comes out of the workhouse or the shops and all that stuff. Just unbelievable. So once again, we'll see what more comes out of it. Sorry about the noise, folks. But Boeing not off to a good start in 2024. That is pretty much what we know. So they're being investigated by the FAA, and on top of that, airlines are having to look into this problem themselves to determine if these planes are safe and completing checks. And there's going to be multiple checks, not just multiple inspections, not just by the airlines, but FAA is going to have to investigate, Boeing, so many parties involved. And also, one other thing I know is that another company that is coming under investigation or under scrutiny is a company by the name of Spirit Aerosystems, if I'm correct. I know their name is Spirit. Do not confuse them, by the way, with Spirit Airlines. This is not Spirit Airlines we're talking about. We'll get to them later, but this is not them. This is Spirit Aerosystems, who is a supplier for Boeing. They help work on the fuselage for the 737 MAX. They're going to be under a lot of scrutiny following this incident. They've been under a lot of scrutiny. So I'm just telling you what I know so far about it, and we'll see what more comes out of it. But more flight cancellations, more groundings, and Boeing and Spirit Aerosystems under a lot of fire again. We'll see what more comes out of that investigation. And here's the catch. I mean, it could be a few weeks. It'll probably be some time before the MAX 9 flies again, but it wouldn't surprise me to learn that that the investigation of Boeing is still not complete by the time the MAX 9 flies again. That would not surprise me. So, we'll see what more comes out of it. Alright. Moving on to a more positive topic, or a lot less negative topic. So, one other thing we have noted, I want to make note of is, speaking of Spirit Airlines, who we're talking about. A judge has blocked the merger between Spirit and JetBlue. So the two requests to merge, become one, denied, blocked. So they cannot merge at this point. But however, what JetBlue can do is appeal it. Both Spirit and JetBlue can appeal this ruling if they would like to. But anyway, the reason for the judge blocking this blocking this merger is simply because of one reason: competition. The judge and the other parties involved are worried that the merger between Spirit and JetBlue will actually hurt competition, and it'll raise airline fares or ticket prices and will limit choices for the customer who wants to fly. So simple economics, as I mentioned, are kind of the big reason why this merger is being blocked. But it's temporary, and me and Tyler discussed it a little bit. It would not surprise me to see JetBlue and Spirit appeal this. And something to keep in mind, too. Spirit Airlines is not doing too well. They're not doing so hot right now. In fact, their sales are down. I mean, not selling as many. As far as I know, they're really struggling financially, and they might be an airline that might not last much longer. So it's understandable why they're looking to merge. But who knows that if the deal between them and JetBlue doesn't go through, maybe Frontier and Spirit merge. Who knows? But it wouldn't surprise me to see JetBlue and Spirit appeal this decision and then get it reversed. And maybe there's some things they need to change up, like some tactics or the marketing part of it. A lot of things. But for right now, the move has been blocked, and JetBlue and Spirit for now are not merging. Could it happen in the future? We will see. And then finally, okay, two more things. On to some smaller news. Now, Delta Airlines is in the news this week. For those of you who are wondering, they just placed a big aircraft order. And this is a big, and I mean big one, like wide-body order. They have placed an order for 40 total aircraft. So for the record, the order is for the Airbus A350-1000. The biggest for the record, that is the biggest version of the Airbus A350. And just to give you an idea, if I can, okay, this right here, this is an A350 that I'm holding, or a model of one. This is the 900 version. So the A350-1000, it's similar to the 900, but it's it's a bit longer in terms of length, and its capacity is higher. And for the record, if you want to know how to spot the difference between an A350-900 and a 1000, look at the landing gear. Like if you see, especially the gear that comes out from underneath the fuselage. If the A350-900 had both in terms of sets of wheels, the 900 has 4 on each leg, while the A350-1000 has 6 on each leg. So 8 total back wheels for the 900 and 12 total for the 1000. So that's just trying to help you guys tell the difference, especially if you like spotting aircraft. But obviously, big order for Delta. Now, for the record, to give you the details on this order. The order is for 20 firm, so it's a split. 20 firm, 20 optional. So they're ordering the A350-1000. 20 of those are firm orders. So they're going to get at least 20 A350-1000s. The other 20 are options. So what that means is that's an order that they can actually change. They can do a lot of things with options. Like when they say options, it's options. With options, you can either cancel the order, you can change it out for a different aircraft, or reduce the number. So, for example, like if Delta feels they have enough A350-1000s, they could change up the 20 optional aircraft to say A350-900s or even A330-900 Neos, which rumor has it they might be looking to do. Or they could cancel that part of the order. It's up to Delta, depending on what they feel their needs are. So that's just to give you guys an idea of what this order is all about. Honestly, well, the relationship between Delta and Airbus is clearly a strong one. And I don't know if Delta was ever considering the Boeing 777X, but with that plane struggling to get certification, I can't be I guess I can't say I for sure expected Delta to order the A350-1000, but it is a little surprising because that's a very big plane and it needs a lot of crew in the. It's not A380 size where it needs a whole ton of crew and 4 engines. It's a 2-engine plane, but it's still a pretty big plane. But then again, I can't be too surprised considering that U.S. airlines like to order big planes because the demand for flights in the U.S. is really, really big, especially compared to continents like Europe. So I do like this order, though, because I'm a big fan of the A350, so this makes me happy. And honestly, the A350, I know there was a crash with an A350, but I don't think that was due to technological error. That's looking like pilot error, but keep putting that aside. The A350 is a wonderful aircraft, very efficient plane, fuel efficient, and there are other planes in Delta's fleet that they need to replace, like the 767 and some older A330s, and I think this may be what they're looking to do, what this move means. So, very interesting to see what kind of route. Now, these will be probably really, really long routes that Delta places these A350-1000s on. Deliveries, from what I hear, are expected to start in the year 2026. And it'll be interesting to see what they do with the options. Maybe they go for the A350-1000 LR or the long range. Who knows? So, alright, and final topic. Just want to say, a couple of days ago was the 15th anniversary of the Miracle on the Hudson, in which Captain Sullenberger and First Officer Jeffrey Skiles landed a plane on the Hudson River. And I mean, they got everything right about it. I don't remember much from that day, but what I do remember is just waking up and then seeing on the news that an airplane had gone into the Hudson, and then learning that birds had taken out the plane. I was like, how does this? I was befuddled by it. It wasn't like wow. And I remember seeing the plane in the water, people on the wings, and that stuff, and I'm just thinking, this looks like trouble. And I was just baffled by how birds could bring this plane down. It wasn't until I studied this incident much later that I realized, okay, they went through the engines, and and by the way, for those who don't know, the birds that went through, or the geese that went through the engines of this A320 were much larger than what the engines were tested for, which is part of the reason why they failed. I mean, engines are tested for bird strikes. Like, they will actually shoot frozen birds through the engines. But one of the changes that came from this incident was they had to change the size of the frozen birds that they were shooting through the engine. But a lot of good things came out of this incident. It's an incident that probably should have been a disaster, but it ended up being a miracle, thanks to everybody involved. Thanks to Chesley Sullenberger and Jeffrey Skiles, the captain and the first officer. Those guys did a wonderful job. Everybody on board did a wonderful job, and everyone lives to tell the tale. And you know what? No, it was a combination of great piloting skill, which, trust me, water landings do not go very well. Like, if you have to get a lot of things right in order for the plane to actually crash land safely on the water without it breaking apart, or worse, cartwheeling, which happens a lot of times. But the crew got it. Those two pilots got everything right on that landing, and it ended up, and with a great plane like the A320, the hull managed to of the A320 held in there, and thanks to the systems that helped provide a safety net for the landing on the Hudson, it bought the crew and the passengers plenty of time to escape, and plenty of time for those ferries to make those rescue attempts. So really a great miracle, and something we should never forget. And that was around the time when there was nothing but negative news, but that was probably the most positive news New York had. And that, I can only imagine how spooked they might have been, especially considering this was just only 8 years after 9/11, too. So these are just some of my thoughts on the miracle of the Hudson. By the way, for those of you who do not know, the plane that crash landed the plane that went into the Hudson River, it's on display in North Carolina. I think at the Carolina Aviation Museum, although they might be undergoing some renovations, so you probably can't see it now, but when that museum reopens, if you want to go see that plane, go to Charlotte, North Carolina, and you'll see it. And ironically, Charlotte, North Carolina was the destination of Cactus 1549, for those who do not know. Alright. Alright. To all you who are watching, that's it for tonight's video, and I just want to say thank you for watching, and like I said, we'll see where the series goes from here. And as I mentioned, I'm a big aviation geek. You know, I like planes, and my uncle Mark, who flies for United, he's a big reason why I like planes. So that's part of the reason I'm attempting to do this. We'll see where it goes from here, but if you guys have any thoughts or anything you'd love to say below, any comments, leave them below. I'd love to hear what you have to say, and correct me on any facts that I got wrong. I don't mind being fact-checked in this case, because I know I'm not 100% accurate. So, alright. I'm done talking about airplanes in this first video of Waxman Talks Aviation. Once more, to all you who watched, thank you for watching, and Jake Waxman, signing off.